Hey everyone, I'm Rick with PointsHawk, and welcome back to another video. This week we've got a couple of travelers who are looking to schedule a trip with their two children to Costa Rica for spring break in 2027, so that should be pretty fun. We've got a number of different points and a lot of different stuff to go through, so let's go ahead and run through the details. They're either starting in Portland or Seattle. They're open to flying out of either one. They are flying to either San Juan or Liberia. They're willing to go to either one of those locations in Costa Rica. Lots of people forget about Liberia. If you ever do go down to Costa Rica, make sure you don't forget about Liberia because sometimes you can get much better deals there. It's worth checking. For their dates, they're looking to fly and travel between April 8th and April 16th. They did say they have about 2 to 3 days flexibility on either side, but they are aiming for about 7 to 8 days total in their vacation. Again, 4 travelers, including their 2 kids. Their 2 kids are 7 and 9 years old. For points, they've got 137,000 Chase points, 90,000 Capital One miles, and then 180,000 Alaska Atmos miles to work with. Priorities, their top priority is to get their best points deal possible. Second priority is convenience. They're traveling with 2 kids, of course, and so trying to minimize the number of layovers and try to minimize positioning if at all possible. Cash cost is the third priority, and then comfort is their lowest priority. They recognize that with 4 people, it's going to be difficult to get premium seats or anything like that. So we're really going to focus on economy for this trip. Total round trip price for 4 people, when I did some research, when I'm looking this up, is about $2,800 in economy again, that's round trip. So that's what we're going to be trying to beat. Quick reminder, the flights that I'm sharing with you today likely won't be available by the time you see this because I do post these a couple of weeks after I actually do this, simply in order to make sure that my clients have the opportunity to get the deals first. So do be aware of that. They can take advantage of those. So what you can do though is you can use this as inspiration for your own searches and get ideas on how you might approach it if you're looking for a similar trip. All right, so let's go ahead and get searching. All right, we're going to start with seats.aero as usual. Again, still not sponsored by seats.aero. Seats.aero, if you're watching this, call me. Okay, so because they are willing to fly out of either Seattle or Portland, we've got both of these up here as origin airports. And then for destination, we've got San Juan or Liberia, both of them in Costa Rica. Again, remember, if you're ever flying to Costa Rica, don't forget about Liberia. A lot of people do, and sometimes you can find really, really good deals compared to San Juan because everybody flies into San Juan. So just keep that in mind. We've got this set for the 7th. They mentioned that they wanted to do the 8th. The 8th is on a Thursday, so we can actually start with the 7th, 8th, and 9th, but I'm going to back it up here probably because I don't think we're going to find anything more significant on the 9th, especially since it's a Friday. So that's just generally speaking where things are not going to be as good priced for the most part. So as we can see here with that, that's at least higher pricing, if not the same. So we're going to back this up. They did say they had a couple of days flexibility on either side. So we're going to leverage that to try to get some of the more middle of the week flights. Now, at first glance, American looks great, which would be wonderful if they actually had points they could use with American, but they don't. So all of these American flights are pretty much useless to us. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and filter those out. I'll change it to exclude, switch on American, so that makes that go bye-bye. And now we are limited to just other things other than American. There are some other things we can't use. Velocity is a different program that's not available to us in the States very easily, so we're not going to look at those, but at least that clears up a lot of the stuff. Now what you'll notice very quickly is that we've got a lot of United, and we've got Alaska. United looks like it's got the best initial deals. So we'll look at that. But the other thing we want to try to do, especially since convenience is high, they've got 2 young kids that they're going to be working with there. We want to limit the number of layovers and the length of those layovers as much as we can. So we're really going to try to prioritize anything with 1 layover or less. I don't think we're going to be able to get non-stop, unfortunately, but if we can keep it to 1 layover and keep that 1 layover from being, more than a few hours at most, that would be optimal for their situation. Just putting myself in their shoes, I would not want to be carting around a 7 and a 9-year-old for multiple layovers for hours and hours on end. That sounds horrible, basically. So we'll keep it to that. But we'll take a look at a few of these things that are showing up, and then we'll look at a couple of programs that aren't on here just to see if there's anything else that might be out there that they could use with the points that they have. Let's start with United, though. Again, we've got a bunch of 2-stop items on here, but here's a 1-stop, and it's on the 6th, if you notice that. There's 2 of them. There's one out of Portland to Liberia and one out of Seattle to Liberia. Both say 1-stop. If I take a look at that a little bit deeper, it is with United, so it's not with a partner airline or anything, and it is 1-stop in Denver for only under an hour and a half, which really isn't bad at all, honestly. At 22,500 points and about $24 in taxes and fees, this is definitely an option, so we'll check that out. Outside of that, we've got Seattle. I don't know that Seattle is probably about the same, if I had to guess. They might even be flying into the same interim airport. Yep, Denver, same one. So the last leg of that flight is probably going to be the same for both. UA 1917, just for fun. Let's see what that other one was for that second flight. UA 1917. Yep. So they aren't getting out of that second flight one way or another. Beyond that, there are some options on Alaska as well. But as we see, we've got a lot of good priced options with United, and their Chase miles can very easily transfer over to that. So let's take a look at the United options first and see what we've got. All right, so we're over on United now. We've got our PDX. We could do Seattle too, but we'll just take a look at Portland right now to Liberia. On April 6th, we went ahead and put in our 4 travelers, our 2, it's showing me, but it would be the first individual, and then 1 additional, and then we've got the 2 children listed in here as well. And when we do that, we've got our options right here, as a matter of fact. That 1-stop option from Portland to Liberia, 22,500 miles. It is, I've mentioned this in other ones, but it's worth noting again. If you fly United regularly, it is definitely worth considering getting their co-branded credit card, at least the Explorer card that they offer. It's not expensive annually, but it will open up both availability of award flights as well as better pricing. This one, for example, this would save them if they had a card, and they do not, unfortunately. But if they had it, they would save over 2,000 points per ticket, which when you multiply that by 4, all of a sudden you're looking at 8,000 plus points, almost getting close to 10,000 points saved just by having that card. So it's definitely worth doing. United definitely prioritizes card holders in a big way. So this is definitely an option. We can log that as a possibility. Do want to check out, so let's just look over at Alaska as well, since that was also listed there, just to see what that looks like. I mean, this one's not bad. This one has a nice layover. It's only 1 stop, so nothing too crazy here, but let's just check out a couple other things. Okay, so looking at Alaska, and what's interesting with Alaska is we've got, we'd actually be having them fly Alaska Airlines, which is pretty convenient, but the pricing from Portland to Liberia, and FYI, I checked San Juan as well, is basically the same across the board here. 25,000 points is what you're looking at here, just about any day of the week. That's important because the previous one, the best pricing was on the 25th. If we were looking at the 28th, not the 25th, the 6th, the 6th of April, if we were looking at... yes, make sure. I was thinking 25th because of 25,000 miles, but we were looking at the 6th of April. If we were looking at the 8th of April, which was their original date that but they did say they had flexibility there, they would be, at a minimum, they would have 26,000 miles with United. Now, they could get that lower if they had the co-branded card, but again, they don't. So if the 8th was very important and they had less flexibility on the front end of that trip, this might be actually the way to go. As it is, they do have flexibility, and so they can save some points by just flying a couple of days earlier and bumping up their flight. But this is good to be aware of. This is another option, especially when you consider we're going to need to get 4 of these tickets. These are per ticket. So if you remember, based on the number of points they had with Chase and then with Alaska, we're probably looking at using one form of points one direction and one form of points the other direction. So that's one of the reasons why we don't tend to prefer round trip, because you have to have all the points in the same thing. Whereas now we've got flexibility. We can use a couple of different programs. So, all right, so looking at that, it does look like United was good. I do want to check out, because especially when we're talking about United, when we're thinking about this, some things that don't always show up on seats.aero are things like Aeroplan flights that might actually be good. I didn't even see Aeroplan listed on Aero. Aeroplan is Air Canada's loyalty program. So let's go check out Aeroplan and just see if that shows up there, what that looks like, and see if there's any other options that we might want to consider. Okay. Looking at Air Canada's Aeroplan, from the same one we were looking at before, from Portland to Liberia, we see that there is a low price of 24,700 points. But when we go down here, the one that, actually the same one we found on United is showing up for 25,000 points plus 107 Canadian dollars. That would actually be more than what United was, even when we calculate that in. But that's the same exact flight. It would actually be a little bit more. Just for fun, this is just worth showing. If I adjust this to Portland, because Aeroplan has a lot of different partners, if I adjust this from Portland to San Juan, actually I'll even change this to Seattle just to show you what a difference things can look like if they were less concerned about carting along a couple of kids with them. When I search for Seattle to San Juan, all of a sudden we've got some options here that look like the minimum price would be 15,800 points, which is pretty significantly less. Now we've got a little bit here, but I do want to just show you why that is. This would be something where if it was just, one or two people and they really just wanted the lowest price possible, then it might be worthwhile. As you can see here, we've got a couple of different stops, but most of these have 2 stops at least. And those layovers are not great either. This one, for example, the lowest priced one is 5 hours at Vancouver and then 8 hours at Cancun. That's just not great. So yeah, so this is not good, but it's just kind of fun to see. You can see different possibilities, and sometimes you can find a cheaper one, but it's just not worth it based on everything that you had. Separate note, I did look at another program called Avianca that's based out of Colombia, and I just wanted to see, because they are also part of the Star Alliance, like Aeroplan and like United, and they did show up on there too, but the pricing was no better. So United honestly had the best pricing for this direction. So that seems like our best option, so we'll hold on to that, and then let's go take a look at some return trips and see if we can find another possibility for them. Okay, we flipped around our search now, looking for San Juan or Liberia to either Seattle or Portland. And when we did that, we got, again, the same types of things. I went ahead and excluded American already, so it's not showing. But we've got United showing up still, just like it did before. We've actually got some Delta flights. They don't have any points that can transfer to Delta, so that's not really an option. And then they've got some Alaska. So at first, it looks very similar. However, remember, we're trying to minimize the number of layovers. And if we look at all of these United flights are at least 2 stops that are showing up on here. And we'll go and check that out just to be on the safe side directly on the United site. But Alaska does have some one-stop options, particularly to Portland from Liberia, it looks like. So this may be the best option, but we'll check out both of those as well. And we'll go ahead and check out Aeroplan just to see if there's anything that we might be missing. Now, the ones we were seeing on seats.aero were from San Juan back to Portland. And I'm looking at the 14th. It was going to be similar around both sides, but we'll see that here. We've got the 22nd. The dates right around it are showing the same number of points at this point. If I filter sort by the economy, we do have 22,000, but again, just like we saw on seats.aero, it looks like we've got 2 stops across the board. So while that is technically fewer points, that's not going to be super convenient for them, especially going home with 2 young kids. So that's not really great. Now, well, just to show what Liberia looks like, this was San Juan, but if we changed it over to Liberia and update that, It's actually worse. So San Juan would have been the best option there. And FYI, I checked Seattle, it's no better. So that tells us what we're looking for there. Checking out Air Canada just to see what that looks like. We are looking at San Juan to Seattle around the same time. We do show 15,800 points, but if it's anything like we saw last time, yep, this is 2 stops. Man, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be spending 16 hours in Vancouver when I'm trying to get home. So this is not a great option either at this point. We've got some options here, but again, these layovers are killing us right now. So not great option. I mean, I can look from Liberia to Portland just for fun. When I do that, though, the prices are just not as good, and we're still dealing with multiple stops, 2 stops along the way. So we got to see if we can get this down to 1 layover and limit it to that. So let's go over and take a look at Alaska, since they've got a bunch of Atmos points they can work with. Okay, now we're getting a little bit more reasonable here. The 14th, it's still 27,500, but just a day later, it looks like we've got a 25,000 point option. So if we take a look at that and what we've got there, so this is from Liberia to PDX with just under 3 hours in Miami. It's actually flying on American Airlines instead of Alaska Airlines. So, but hey, that I think would be worth it potentially. It is a little bit. Now there are some other things to consider here. This one for just a couple thousand points more, but less for taxes and fees. They could get that even shorter potentially. This one is a total of 12 hours, 23 minutes. If we come back up here to the top, this one's slightly less total time just because they're not flying along. So honestly, this may be, they've got a lot of Atmos points considering. So this may be the better option for them. We'll do some numbers, and when I share the recommendations, I'll tell you what I'm actually going to recommend to them. It just kind of depends. This one's just got fewer like about $20 less in taxes and fees to the other one for only about 2,000 points difference per person. So I'll take a look at that, and when I do that, but it does look like our recommendations are going to be use United points so that they can transfer over from Chase to fly. From their outbound flight from PDX to Liberia. And then coming home, it looks like their best bet from both a price perspective as well as just a convenience perspective with only 1 layover, that looks like that's going to be Alaska. That's the time to use their Alaska points. And so that will be either this one or the American one. I'll tell you what I end up deciding at the end. So thankfully, it looks like we've got some good options to offer and to suggest. Well, we were able to find some good options. I think we've got some things that are going to work for our travelers, so I'm looking forward to sharing them with them. Let's run through the recommendations that I'm going to be sharing, and I'll explain why I picked what I did. First of all, for outbound, flying from Portland to Liberia on economy, flying with United, and they're actually flying on United, booking with United, with that 1-stop layover in Denver that I shared with you. That's a great option for them to get down there. Nice short layover as well. For the return trip, I went ahead and selected the Liberia to the Portland economy, flying American, booked with Alaska Atmos. I was looking at both of them after I ran the numbers. The American one, even though it's a little bit more cash, the extra points end up for the Alaska flight actually made it worth less. That made their points less valuable than the American one did. So paying a little bit of extra cash and less points actually ended up working better for them in this situation. No positioning flights required, so nothing to worry about there. From a total points perspective, they are using 90,000 Chase points that they'll transfer to United Airlines, and then they're using 100,000 of their Alaska Atmos for the return trip. Total out of pocket between the two for taxes and fees is about $425, so that's really not bad at all, considering the round trip cash cost for 4 people was going to be $2,800 or right around there. So $425 round trip for 4 people, that's not too shabby at all. That, in fact, savings versus cash, they're saving $2,375, which translates to 85% compared to paying with cash for the same flights. So that's a great deal. I'm really excited to share this with them. I think this will be a good option for them. As far as you, for you, make sure you like, subscribe, and click any of the other buttons down there so that you can get updated for other videos like this in the future. I try to post these each week, and try to vary it up as far as the locations that we're searching for and the situations, so that hopefully you can get some inspiration for your own flights. If you are new to this and you're feeling a little overwhelmed and maybe just not sure about doing this yourself, or you just don't want to do the work, you don't want to do all the research on your own, I encourage you to check out pointshawk.com, where you can connect with me directly and I can see how I may be able to help you out, or even possibly help you figuring out how to strategize to get points to begin with. Until next time, good luck hunting those flights.